Communication is a pretty big deal in Foxhole. All right. I've said it once. I'll say it again. I'll keep saying it. I would probably trade in my gun for a megaphone. If I could just make my voice go further across the field of battle, I think I would prefer to do that. It's so important to communicate, all right? And you'll know why when you spawn in the town base and there's 12 privates there and they're saying nothing, because what that sounds like to me is they're all silently screaming. They're all like making this like like kind of noise, all right? So I sometimes I hear guys like asking what the situation report is, and that's great. That's great. That gets the privates thinking about the situation. That makes it so that you don't have to go out there and get sniped or whatever. You don't have to be the one to die because somebody already died. Okay. You don't have to fail in a way that everyone else has failed and has been failing. Okay, and that's what communication is. It creates a broader meta picture of what's going on. Without communication, it's difficult. Okay, so there's a couple different text channels, and that's the pretty much like the really rudimentary sort of way to communicate. You can hit tab, you hit enter, and then you hit tab, and you can go through the channels. Okay, global chat is a mess. Really, anything goes there. Really, anything goes there. We try to keep it Foxhole related, but that doesn't always work out. Next one would be Logi. Sometimes you can get on that channel and you can ask Logi for stuff, but I've actually only ever seen it work once. Really, what the law? I mean, yeah, it doesn't really work. I've seen it just work once where the guy's like, "We need this here," and the guy's like, "Okay, I'll do it." I mean, maybe it's happened like other times, like they just did it. They just like read the post and they just did it. But I've only ever seen someone ask for something and they get it like right then, and so they said, "Okay." There's the Intel channel. We try to keep the Intel channel kind of just empty, like just don't really use it. I mean, I use it for like QRF. I use it for spotting partisans. QRF spotting partisans, basically the same thing. It's basically like we need someone here quick. There's a big problem that I can't fix by myself. Regardless of the urgency of the actual issue, you want to absolutely in the red chat Intel. You want to just be kind of calm, I guess. Intel chat kind of calm. Then there's region chat, and that's where most of the heavy lifting gets done because it's more pertinent, it's more specific to where you are, and this could really be many things. And then the benefit here, right, is that not everyone can read this. Only the people in your region can read it, so it makes it localized. It gives you a sense almost of community. Okay, then there's the local chat. Okay, not region chat, local chat, which is just like a certain region or like a certain radius around you. The fun thing about the local chat is you can actually send messages to the collies and you can read their messages too. So I've been in a pillbox before and seen a collie patrol go by and asked like, "Well, where is he?" And then they left. It's kind of fun. It made me feel like 007 James Bond. And in the actual like chat lineup, if you see someone's name, you can right click on that name, and there's a couple of great options there. You should try it out. If they're in your region, you can commend them, which is great. So if someone's like, "Yeah, we just took out the tank," by all means, commend them. Commending is another form of communication that is vastly either underutilized or just not utilized or utilized the wrong way. I think out of all the communication capacities, commends are so important. Basically, all you have to do is hit F1 or hold down Alt and click on someone. If they're doing a good job, give them a commend. Please give them commends, okay? I've heard about the old heads that used to like sit around in circles giving each other commends for as long as they could. You can only give 3 commends a day to the same person. So they would stand in a circle and just divvy out all their commends and stuff. But it's just like, you're just sniffing your farts. You're just sniffing each other's farts that whole time. Like, it's just like, that's not how it works. And then basically what they're doing now is they're getting all these people that don't deserve it promoted. Okay. I asked in another video, I asked if the warrant officer that got that rank just by making seaport deliveries, I asked if he even deserves that rank. And I've been thinking about that question. He does. He really does. He deserves that rank because he did a lot of work. He did a lot of work that he didn't have to for this faction, and that's why. So yeah, that should be rewarded. He's invested. But that's what commends do. Is they get you they get you to the next rank. And I go over rank, in another video. Yeah. So it's basically like a thumbsy upsy. Unfortunately, the reason why no one knows how to do this is privates don't get commends. I don't know. I think that you have to get them in order to give them out, or maybe I'm just a lieutenant, so I accrue them faster. I don't know. It seems like I have more commends to give people than I had before. But maybe I wasn't paying attention. So if you hit T on your keyboard, you can talk, okay? And that isn't great keyboard placement. Honestly, I keep I keep T for talk. I do personally. I use that. It's not optimal because you can't like run and do shit and like while you're holding that, it's basically like messing up your fingers. I do it anyways. T to talk, okay? T to talk. Map posts. Map posts are really, really important too. Really, really important. I think you have to be like a corporal to make them. The thing with the map post is if you're trying to detail an area or situation, do not cover that area or situation with the post. It's very, very, very easy to do. Don't do that. Okay. You can leave a comment underneath a post. Okay, so you can only have one map. You can only make one map post at a time, and you can only leave one comment on each post. And once you leave another comment, your first comment will go away. Okay. Yeah, it's super important. Map posts are super important too, and a very typical map post you'd see would be like Logi, like people asking for stuff, begging for stuff, basically. Next, there's signs. Signs are another way to communicate. Signs can do many things. Typically, what they do is show you outdated information. Okay, luckily, there's actually a you can see who made the sign and you can see how long ago it was made or edited. So that's really useful. It's handy sometimes. I like to give each of my forts and bases a little name just for fun. It adds a little bit of flavor to the situation instead of just like the bunker base. Well, which one? The bunker base over there. I'll mark it now. Instead, we just say, okay, go to Camp Famine. Go to Outpost Dynamo. Okay. Shit like that, right? But with signs, you don't want to, like, just like with map posts, you don't want to block off anything. Okay. So if you put a sign right next to a bunker base and you walk up to the bunker base and you hit E, it's going to access the sign, not the bunker base's inventory. Okay. So that's just a huge hassle. Okay. That's a huge hassle. There's a character that I'm going to be describing now who basically just sucks at everything I've talked about. He's just done everything wrong. Okay. His name is Chaos King, and I don't like the filler, and I'll let you know why. Okay. I go to this factory. I go to this fucking factory in Heartlands. I think it's called Blemish. And he put a sign right in front of the factory begging for us to deliver G-subs to his base. And it's like, brother, It's your base. You get your own G subs, dude. Don't do not just leave that there thinking that we're gonna and there were no G subs at his base. It was the king. Okay. If you're not gonna take care of your base, why would I? Why do you need all these people to look at your sign? Okay. So what you can do with signs, you can either upvote them or downvote them. I don't typically upvote many signs. I don't ever feel like, man, that's a great sign. But there's plenty of signs that's like, that's a terrible sign. And so with his, I downvoted it and I got someone else to downvote it. I don't know how many downvotes it takes. I don't know. The same like with map posts. I think that once it gets to -1, it just goes away. So you cannot upvote your own signs or your own map posts, but you cannot downvote them either. So if you make a sign, you really can't get rid of it. You can edit it though. You can edit the sign later. Okay. But look, Chaos King is just an idiot. Okay. He's just an idiot. When I met him, I was in my truck, which was filled with RPGs. I was going to flank the enemy. Okay. We were sitting on a bridge for hours. We'd captured the hex or the hex on the other side. So we came across. And for hours they sat on that bridge. So I went over because I know how to get around, right? I brought a truck full of RPG shells, okay? And I'm like, get in. Because he was just standing by the base holding a Cutler Foe Breaker. A Cutler Foe Breaker, probably the worst weapon in the game. I'm on Team Booker now. I like the Booker. The Foe Breaker is just so bad. So bad. So bad. So bad, okay? It's just stupid. So I'm like, okay. I was like, hey, can you come with me? We're going to go flank. I'm going to go hit these. And he's like, oh, yeah, I'll go with you. I was like, okay. I'm like, you can just bring that. We'll use it. He's like, oh, no, I'm going to set it up. So I wait for him to go set it up. And this entire time I'm thinking, like, why? Why are you doing this? You just set up random weapons? Like, this guy, do you think the collies are just going to be like, oh, wow, hey, shoot me. I'll stand in front of the gun for you. When you set up a weapon, all right, you have to have an intent to use it right then and there. It's no different. It's no different than the weapon in your hand, okay? Except it's on a tripod. Would you? I mean, let's just say for a second that the weapons didn't disappear when you leave them on the ground. Let's just say they stay there forever. Would you just be leaving RPGs lying around? I mean, maybe for like a long-range mission, that makes sense, like storing things. But like around a base, would you, at the base you're defending, would you leave just cutlers and rockets and shit just lying around, just casually leaving them lying around? Ask yourself that, okay? So he goes into the darkness. He comes back and he's like, okay, what did you want me for? So he forgot everything I already talked to him about. Right? He didn't wear his helmet. I think there's a hole in his head. I think because I'm like, okay, just get in the truck. I'm like, just get in the truck. We'll go around. We'll flank him. I already have a cutler. I was like, you can get a cutler if you want one too. And he's like, what kind of cutler? I'm like, what? He's like, what kind of cutler should I get? I'm like, I don't care. He's like, should I get the Foe Breaker or should I get? I'm like, get the hand cutler. And I mean, it's a stupid question, right? Because the Foe Breaker is such a shitty weapon. If you had 2 cutlers, that's the same as 1 Foe Breaker. If you fire 1 cutler twice, that's a Foe Breaker. Look, once you take into account the fact that you have to reload the Foe Breaker 1 rocket at a time, once you realize that your rocket output per minute or hour or second, or however you want to fucking divvy it up, it's identical. Both of them both of them shoot the same amount of rockets per hour. Okay, so this is what's going on in my head when he's like, well, what kind of cutler should I get? So I'm like, okay, get the hand cutler, since I had to make it that. I had to decide for him, right? And he's like, oh, we don't have any of those. And so I looked in the base. I'm like, there's 4 right there. Just get it. Let's go. We have to go right now. There were fucking tanks flanking us. There were guys with rifles and machine guns running around the woods. Everything was about to fall. He didn't know, though. He's just sitting there setting up cutler launchers, probably facing directly at the bridge, too. So I said, I got to go. And he said, there's no cutlers here. So I just left. And then I'm on the other side of the water. I'm listening to these guys on the region chat. And he's like, they're in the bunker base. They're in the bunker base. They're in the bunker base. And it's like, how did they get there? Surely the cutler foe breaker was going to stop them with its dual barrels. And then, it left. And the entire time he was yelling at people, but it's just like, it's your fault. It was all your fault. You're like a warrant officer or a captain or a lieutenant or something. And you're just going to behave like a private that knows how to use the fucking chat. You're just going to stand around there. So I muted him. I muted his voice and I muted his chat just because like there's something wrong with him. There's like something like up here wrong with him. I know. And there's something up here wrong with me too. Okay. I'm not saying that I'm some sophisticated like intelligence from fucking year 3000 2023 or some shit. Like I'm fucked up. Okay. I'm not going to lie, but I just knew that there would be there's no dialogue or future or there's no in the future. Yeah. There's nothing. So just mute him and you'll be happier. Okay. Look, there's people that get so mad at me. I know why, because I try to get them so mad at me and they don't have to listen to me. They don't have to listen to me. They can mute me. Okay. Something about communication, and I'm not sure. I think this is probably just a me thing because it just happens so often. I have 3,500 hours in Foxhole, persistent world warfare, okay? I don't know how many fucking days that is. It's over 100 though. It's probably like 150 or some shit, okay? I know this game, or at least I know a lot about it, right? Now, I'm not saying that makes me some sort of fucking authority because it's still just a video game, all right? I don't have a fucking 3,000 hour badge. I went to a zombie crawl last night. That's why my hands are all fucked up. Okay? I should have watched them. I did. I will tell people, I will say, do this, do that. And they just won't listen. They just won't listen. And I guess it's just because I was in the army for so long, and that's just kind of how things work in an actual army. Is just like someone says, do this, do that. And then you do this or that. But yeah, it's just like, I accidentally shot at the CV, right? Because I thought it was the enemies. And so I was fucking weapons restricted. And I was telling this guy, I'm like, there's Collie vehicles out there. And so he's like, nah, there ain't nothing out there. He's like, don't talk to me like that. And he had all this sass. I could tell he was fucking streaming. Okay. So eventually he makes his way out there with with the convoy of tanks. I'm like, unlock it. Here's the wrench, unlock it. Here's the wrench, unlock it. Because first I said, please unlock it. Here's the wrench. He didn't listen. So I said, please, here's the wrench, unlock it. And then he started to understand. And then he was like, oh, you want me to unlock these? Okay. And then he did it. He's like, you didn't have to repeat yourself so many times. I'm like, yeah, well, if you would have done it the first time, I wouldn't have repeated myself. And it's probably something on me. I don't know. It's probably just people. Okay. I guess the lesson here for me is I need to learn to communicate a little bit better myself. I'm not sure what exactly to do. I know it'll work though. I know what'll probably work better than what I'm doing is saying, oh, can you please do this for me? Oh, do you mind doing this? I would really like it. Being basically like a little girl to them. But the problem with that is this is a war zone. So you kind of have to act with some haste. That's the reason I don't just fucking. And it's like, look, man, it's to the point now where I'll ask people to do things, they won't do them, and in 5 seconds, I'm just like, okay, and I just give them a chance. If they don't do it in 5 seconds, it's not worth trying to coax them, trying to make a big fucking speech or anything like that. It's just like, psh, later, dude. That's all right. I can do most of this shit by myself, anyways. I don't need your approval. I've lost my voice, and that's why I sound like this. But you can definitely lose your voice in Foxhole. It happens very often. Out of all of the errors or glitches in this game, that is the biggest one, is losing your voice, and it's very problematic. Okay, what it starts out with is like you'll get like a robot-y, like laggy, shitty voice, and that's where it starts with. Okay, so if someone tells you have a robotic voice, well, you immediately need to hit escape, settings, voice, reconnect. Okay, and it'll say you're reconnected. Good. You just saved yourself a lot of trouble. Okay. Now, if you completely lose your voice, all right, you'll hit T and it won't do anything. Okay. Hit U to make sure chat is not disabled. Then hit T to try to communicate. You actually have to talk. You have to hit T and talk into the mic to make it work. It won't just, if you hit T, the little microphone thing doesn't just come up. Okay. If you lose it though, same go to escape, settings, voice, reconnect, okay? And just spam that. And then also refresh devices. Spam both of those as many times as you can. And sometimes it comes back. Most of the time it does. At least like 63% of the time it does, okay? That's a solid D minus. Otherwise, you have to restart the whole game. Okay, and if you have to do that, it's typically best if you get everything off of your character, put it in a little chest or inside a base or in a vehicle somewhere, lock the vehicle, and then leave. Sometimes I don't know what determines this. When you come back to the game, you get back in your body. Sometimes you don't. I don't know exactly how that works. But don't kill sleepers because they might want to get back to their bodies. They might have a bunch of shit on them. They might have been in the middle of doing something and then they got disconnected. So you shot them in the face. And then, there's another communication device that I don't use. Well, there's Discord. I don't use Discord. I know the Foxhole voice system isn't great. It's not reliable, but Discord just has the worst energy of any communications platform I've ever been on. It's just so I don't know how to describe it. That's just why I stay off of it. I don't get it because it's like it's the only service out there that isn't run by an algorithm. So that's really cool. But at the same time, the energy is just so awful on Discord. I don't know why. It's like there's like this like film on fucking everything. So I don't use Discord. You can. There's also Squad. There's also the Squad voice, and it's a mixed bag. But ultimately, I think in a lot of cases, it's a bad idea. If you're trying to like coordinate a massive force, it makes sense. If you're trying to coordinate really 6 or more guys, it makes sense. I just don't use it. Okay. And here's why. Okay. Here's why is, I got this sergeant and he was actually pretty good. He had one of the Kali light machine guns. It's one of my favorite guns in the game. I had one too. I'm like, come with me. We're going to go kill them. And he's like, okay. And so he came with me and he's like, I can't hear you because they're talking on the squad. And, he was with me, not them, but he's still in the squad, whatever. The cool thing about the squad voice is it doesn't matter where you are. You guys can always hear each other. It's like having your little like comm bead or something. Okay. That's the cool part. So like, you'd be like, hey, I'm over here. Come over here. They don't have to be within voice to hear it, but It's chit chat that kills these. It's the chit chat, okay? It's the chit chat that kills these. It gets you to like lower your guard so bad, okay? The chit chat is so bad, and the squad voice is higher by default than the regular voice, okay? So what this means is it's just like they're in your fucking ear yelling, okay? And when you're like on a combat mission and they're not in combat, that's when they start chit chatting, and it will just get you to lower your guard. I could explain in so many different ways why, but it just does. Look, you're not focused, you can't hear. It's stupid. It's inane. We have chit chat everywhere. All right. Now look. Okay. There is a time and a place for chit chat. I know that a lot of the soldiers need chit chat, and I've heard some cool shit with chit chat. You know, this one guy, this European, he that talks like an American with that same enthusiasm that we have when we're not obese or skinny. Yeah, he's like a park ranger for a fucking like war park. What the fuck? That's hella cool. You know, I got that through chit chat. Chit chat's not so bad. Chit chat keeps the morale up between battles, between missions. Chit chat can help you train soldiers. So chit chat isn't so bad. But you have to know just when to cut off the chit chat immediately, okay? Because like I mean for me, I can kind of basically tell when the collies are getting close or when we're getting close to them. All right. And so what I do is 1.5 minutes before that, I say, okay, enough chit chat. Let's just focus on the mission for now. Because they need to like change their gears. Okay. They're talking about shit that happened in the past, that chit chat shit. Okay. They need to be focused on the present, but it helps build morale. Okay. It builds my morale for sure. You know, it's camaraderie is the chit chat. That's what it's there for. All right. And there's a lot of guys that need the chit chat to like exist. Like women. Basically, like with squads, okay, there's some tactics to be had. Okay. If you're in a squad and you're going on a combat mission, right? Typically, there's going to be one guy in charge. Typically, like everyone kind of fans out like a V. If that first guy takes contact, the V should like invert. It should go from like convex to concave or whatever the fuck, you know, one of them to the other one, right? They should not just be looking at the target that the squad leader's shooting at, all right? If I'm shooting at an enemy, I need you guys to spread out and flank, spread out and flank, spread out and flank. If I'm shooting at someone, because I'm already shooting bullets at him from that angle, and he's already shooting bullets at me from that angle. Okay, the worst thing you could do is stand directly behind the squad leader, or just, you know, by the side, whatever. Okay, so spread out. You know, that's basic tactics. All right, spread out. You can still hear his voice relatively far away. In vehicles, there needs to be one guy in charge. Typically, it's the driver, just because he's the guy that brought the tank there. Sometimes, you know, it's the gunner. It really depends, but there has to be one guy in charge. Okay, I like vehicles because it's easy to keep control of your squad. You know, they're basically trapped in this little box with you, so they can't really wander off and fuck up. And that's another thing. If we're on a night mission or really any kind of mission, we're on foot, you gotta keep up, buddy. You gotta keep up, buddy. I can't keep looking back behind me to see if you're, and I can't afford to do that. If I lose you, I lose you. And I mean, it's just the price to pay, I guess, if you're going to go wander off into the dark all by your lonesome. And I guess this could be kind of a little, you know, it could be a little confusing, right? But basically, look, outside of combat, everyone has line of sight with each other. In combat, don't have line of sight with each other. Have line of sight at the enemy. Start shooting the enemy. Okay, so in vehicles, look, there's this thing called squad locking. I don't like doing it. I do not like the squad lock. Okay. You always want to have one guy in the vehicle if it's a combat vehicle at all times. And this is usually the gunner. It should be the gunner. If you turn the turret off on a tank, it's suddenly just a big rock. That's all it is. It's just a big rock that blocks line of sight. And that's all it does. Yeah, I don't really like squad lock that much. It's kind of like, look, man. If it's my tank, I'm going to be driving and I'm going to be deciding who gets in and who gets out. And if they have to ask to get in, oh well. I'm not sure exactly why I feel this way about the squad lock, other than like it's always just a punch in the nads when I drive a vehicle somewhere that I've unlocked, and then it's like, this was locked by squad lock dipshit, and it's just like, and you can't unsquad lock it. I think the only way to do that is to put it in C port. I think. I just, for some reason, I've had so many negative experiences with squad lock that I just don't use it. It's a feature of the game that I wish didn't exist. What makes it really infuriating, right, is like the enemy can get past the squad lock, but I can't. Now the reason why squad lock would be hella beneficial, right, is let's say for whatever reason I died and they were outside the tank. You know, they're not just fucked. They're not, they don't just get stuck out there. But I mean, honestly, that's kind of a weird scenario. It's kind of a weird scenario that I would die and no one else would. Sometimes people get like, we'll go on missions and then I'll get shot and I'll die on the way to the fucking truck or some shit. The cool thing about that though, right, is like this one mission, I got hit and I was just fucking bleeding out and the guy picked me up and the truck was locked. But what he did is he brought me while I was bleeding out. He dropped me by the truck. Or he didn't even have to drop me. He just picked me up, put me in front of the truck, held me in front of the truck. I unlocked it for him. And then they let me die, and he drove the truck away. It was fucking cool as fuck, actually. It was like some movie bullshit. I got pretty excited with that. So I just like locking, okay? Just have one guy in charge of the lock. All right? Yeah, that's about it.